Welcome to Boss Economics World, where we peel back the layers of bureaucratic absurdity and reveal the economic chaos simmering under the veneer of political power. Today, dear viewers, we're zeroing in on a story that sounds more like a corporate management memo than a government directive. Federal employees were ordered by Elon Musk to submit 5 bullet points outlining their work productivity, and the White House is now scrambling to manage the fallout. Yes, you heard that right. More than 1 million federal workers reportedly responded to Musk's email mandate, despite, or perhaps because of, the confusion permeating Washington's corridors of power. Let's break this down. At first blush, the directive seems as nonsensical as it is authoritarian. An outsider, representing one of the tech world's plutocrats, sets his sights on the U.S. government's civilian workforce and demands they justify their positions in a memo-style checklist. One must wonder, is this a bold new initiative aimed at boosting productivity or merely an example of executive overreach masquerading as efficiency reform? To find out, we have to delve into both the numbers and the broader implications for economic management, and trust me, the numbers alone tell a cautionary tale. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt proudly announced that over 1 million federal workers had responded to Musk's email, a figure that, while seemingly impressive, represents less than half of the roughly 2.4 million civilian federal employees. This statistic alone reveals several layers of dysfunction. First, if fewer than 50% of the workforce participated without direct coordination from their respective agencies, what does that say about the state of communication and governance within our federal bureaucracy? When economics meets management, efficient communication channels and clear lines of authority form the backbone of productivity. In this instance, however, it appears that our government's internal processes are as fragmented as the bullet points being demanded. Musk, no stranger to controversial mandates and transformative, if disruptive, leadership decisions, doubled down on his directive, threatening termination for non-compliance. Yet, as Leavitt clarified, the final say still rests with individual agency heads who will set their own best practices for responding to the email. This tug-of-war between a tech billionaire's management style and long-standing bureaucratic procedures highlights a crucial underlying economic issue, the struggle between contemporary, results-driven governance and the age-old inertia of bureaucratic institutions. Ask any economist, productivity is the engine that drives economic growth. In our private sector, efficiency and accountability are celebrated as the means to foster innovation and drive market expansion. Yet in the public sector, productive outputs are notoriously difficult to measure, and accountability often takes a backseat to political expediency. When federal workers are forced to justify their roles in bullet point jargon, it reflects a deep-seated anxiety about productivity metrics that many agencies have long evaded. Consider the latest data on public sector efficiency. A recent report by the Government Accountability Office, GAO, noted that federal agency performance assessments are frequently mired in bureaucratic red tape and inconsistent evaluation criteria. What better way to highlight this disparity than through an externally imposed, simplistic metric, 5 bullet points? This micromanagement tactic, while clearly designed to force a semblance of accountability, instead exposes the broader dysfunction. The federal government is attempting to mimic private sector efficiency without addressing the structural challenges that have led to its current state. Moreover, when Musk threatened with termination for non-response, it echoed an approach found in Silicon Valley but extremely out of place in a government context. In today's economic climate, characterized by an unstable global market, supply chain disruptions, and inflationary pressures, it is unwise to risk alienating key public employees whose roles are critical to maintaining democratic governance and executing public policies. The short-term efficiency gains of such a mandate are eclipsed by the long-term risks of demoralizing the workforce and undermining institutional integrity. At its core, this incident represents a collision between two very different economic philosophies. On one side, you have Elon Musk, a tech entrepreneur known for his innovative, albeit often polarizing, approach to management. His insistence on clear, concise productivity bullet points is heralded in the tech world as a method to cut through bureaucracy and enforce accountability. On the other side, you have the federal government, an entity built on layers of regulations, unions, and long-established procedures that resist sudden, top-down reforms. This tension is reflective of a broader trend in the political economy, the incursion of private sector ideologies into public administration. In recent years, we have seen a host of new public management reforms attempted by governments around the world. These reforms, inspired by private sector practices, aimed to improve efficiency through measures like performance-based budgeting and decentralized decision-making. However, as the example of Musk's mandate illustrates, the translation of cutting-edge private methodologies to the public sphere is far from seamless. The inherent incentives, contractual obligations, and risk-averse nature of government work create an environment where such reforms can do more harm than good. Adding to this complexity is the murky question of authority. While Musk's directive carries the blunt force of his personal brand, the ultimate authority remains with the federal agencies. This dual authority has generated confusion and resistance, as evidenced by agencies such as the Pentagon, State Department, and Department of Homeland Security instructing workers to disregard the mandate. The resulting administrative conflict is not merely a bureaucratic spat, it's symptomatic of deeper economic misalignments where overlapping jurisdictions hinder decisive action. In an economy that values decisive leadership and clarity, this new directive is a case study in how mismatched mandates can sap productivity throughout an organization. Let's widen the lens and view this incident within the broader context of the U.S. economy, which is reeling from a serious economic recession triggered by various structural and policy failures. Recent data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Federal Reserve show that the U.S. economy has been grappling with rising unemployment, supply-side constraints, and disjointed fiscal policies. In such a climate, the mismanagement of government agencies, where even the basic act of communicating with employees devolves into a political power play, can have far-reaching consequences. Imagine if the spark of inefficiency seen in this directive spreads to other critical areas of economic policymaking. Consider the millions of dollars wasted in redundant bureaucratic processes, the poorly coordinated efforts to manage the national debt, and the slow, ineffective responses to economic shocks like inflation or market downturns. Each instance of misdirected policy or redundant administrative measure compounds the economic woes faced by citizens and businesses alike. The bullet point memo becomes a symbol of how obsolete managerial practices can exacerbate, rather than alleviate, the challenges of modern economic governance. Economic data from comparable periods of governmental reform further supports this analysis. For instance, during the early 2000s, attempts to implement strict performance-based initiatives in large public agencies often resulted in short-term compliance but long-term inefficiencies. A study by the National Bureau of Economic Research, NBR, found that such policies, when applied without a deep understanding of the unique operational challenges in the public sector, often led to a decline in employee morale and a drop in overall productivity. Fast forward to the present, and we see that a similar dynamic is potentially unfolding with Musk's directive. Rather than fostering a proactive, innovative work environment, this command and control approach risks alienating seasoned public servants who have long navigated the intricacies of federal work. Furthermore, think about the message being sent to the private sector. When a business magnate like Musk attempts to impose stringent productivity metrics on the government, it suggests that no institution is above the disruptive whims of market leaders. But this is precisely where the problem lies. Economic policy and productivity are not one size fits all. The mechanisms that drive a hyper-competitive tech startup do not translate neatly into the slow-moving, deliberative machine of federal governance. This misapplication of business tactics to public administration not only undermines the effectiveness of government but also threatens democratic accountability by sidelining the voices of millions of dedicated public servants. We are not alone in this misguided experiment. Countries around the globe have flirted with new public management reforms, often with disastrous consequences. In the United Kingdom, for example, the marketization of public services in the late 20th century promised efficiency and cost savings. Yet, decades later, the UK still grapples with bloated public spending and underperforming agencies. Similarly, several European nations have attempted to transplant business efficiency models into public administration with little long-term success. In contrast, some nations have opted for a hybrid approach, combining the best of private sector management with the unique needs of public service. Singapore, with its meticulous planning and emphasis on meritocracy, offers one model where efficiency and public accountability can coexist. However, for the United States, a nation celebrated for its diverse and often contentious political landscape, the path forward is far more complicated. The Musk directive, then, becomes not just a peculiar footnote but a stark reminder of the pitfalls of ignoring institutional specificity in the name of efficiency. The economic implications of this episode reach far beyond the immediate confusion in Washington. At stake is the future of American governance, a future where innovative management techniques must be carefully balanced with the need for stability, accountability, and democratic legitimacy. If the government continues down a path of hasty, ill-conceived reforms driven by the whims of private entrepreneurs, the consequences could be dire. Consider the ramifications if more agencies attempt to emulate this template of forced productivity assessments. The risk is not just inefficiency but also the potential for massive personnel disruptions. With millions of federal workers already feeling the pressure, any misstep in managing these changes could result in a significant loss of institutional knowledge and expertise. In economic terms, this is akin to forcing a highly skilled workforce into a trial-by-fire scenario, only to watch productivity plummet as experienced employees resign, retire early, or disengage. The economic costs of such a brain drain are incalculable: loss of morale, increased recruitment and training costs, and a slower response to national crises. Moreover, the political fallout from such a mismanagement approach could have broader electoral impacts. In an era when voter dissatisfaction is surging and trust in government is waning, a publicized debacle like this can further undermine confidence in political institutions. According to a recent Pew Research Center survey, trust in the federal government has hit historically low levels, with only 17% of Americans expressing confidence in its ability to do what is right, just about always, or most of the time. Adding Musk's directive to this already combustible mix is like pouring gasoline on a fire, fueling political divisiveness and economic uncertainty at a time when unity and stability are desperately needed. What, then, is the path forward? The answer is neither a wholesale adoption of Silicon Valley's rapid-fire management tactics nor a full-blown return to the archaic bureaucratic models of yesteryear. Instead, the solution lies in a measured, thoughtful approach to public sector reform, one that respects the unique challenges of government work while embracing the efficiency gains that modern management theories offer. For instance, rather than resorting to blunt directives like the 5 bullet points mandate, agencies could invest in comprehensive performance management systems tailored to the intricacies of public service. Advanced data analytics, for example, could provide nuanced insights into productivity without resorting to oversimplified metrics. Innovations in digital government platforms, already accelerated by the pandemic, offer promising avenues for more transparent, data-driven accountability. A recent report by McKinsey & Company highlighted how digital transformation in the public sector can not only reduce administrative burdens but also significantly improve service delivery. However, such reforms must be implemented gradually, with ample input from frontline workers who understand the day-to-day realities of federal service. Furthermore, fostering a culture of continuous improvement within government agencies requires leadership that is both visionary and empathetic. Unlike the authoritarian style sometimes championed in the private sector, public management must prioritize inclusivity in dialogue. Constructive feedback mechanisms, professional development programs, and clear, fair performance evaluations can help rebuild trust and rally a demoralized workforce around a shared goal of public service excellence. Today's episode is a stark reminder that the intersection of public policy, management, and economics is a delicate arena. Elon Musk's intervention in federal personnel management may have been intended as a bold assertion of innovative leadership, but it ultimately exposed a gaping rift between private sector ideals and public sector realities. The economic repercussions of such misaligned reforms are profound, serving as a cautionary tale for policymakers who might be tempted to impose one-size-fits-all solutions on a complex, multifaceted system. In a time when the U.S. economy is already facing formidable challenges, from a serious economic recession to rising geopolitical uncertainties, it is imperative that we do not let flashy, oversimplified mandates divert attention from the need for substantive, measured reforms. Instead, let's harness the best ideas from both the private and public sectors to build a system that is efficient, accountable, and above all, resilient. This isn't just a bureaucratic squabble over memo formats or management styles, it's a reflection of the broader systemic issues that have long plagued our government. It's a call to arms for economists, policymakers, and citizens alike to demand more thoughtful, data-driven approaches to managing our country's most critical institutions. And while the promise of rapid, dramatic change remains alluring in the era of tech titans and disruptive innovation, we must remember that economic progress is a marathon, not a sprint. For now, as we watch the ensuing debates and administrative wrangling in Washington, one thing is clear: the era of simplistic, one-size-fits-all solutions is over. The future of American governance, and by extension, our economic health, depends on a careful balancing act between innovation and tradition. And if we are to navigate the turbulent economic waters ahead, it's imperative that our leaders learn from today's missteps rather than repeating history's costly errors. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the economic ramifications of Musk's directive and the broader issues it unveils. Stay tuned as we continue to bring you incisive commentary and unapologetic truth on the state of modern economics. This has been Boss Economics World, where we cut through the rhetoric and reveal what's really at stake for our nation's future. Until next time, keep questioning, stay informed, and remember, in economics as in life, the devil is always in the details.